I'm Gary, and this is Coasting with Culture, which is all about combining theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. While I decided that I needed to have a self-imposed break from travel to bear down for my final year at Bellevue College, the Thanksgiving break offered an opportunity to enjoy some time away from that busy fall quarter and have an escape with friends to visit one of Europe's most popular theme parks on a bit of a whirlwind trip, which was hard to pass up. We'll begin with a look back at how this all came together, then hop across the Atlantic to kick things off with exploring a pair of Swiss cities to enjoy the views and some medieval architecture, plus an incredible meal. Some of you may already recognize this face, but if you don't, this is Allison, founder of Inverted Creative Studios and one of my favorite people I've gotten to know from the Buzz Bars Coaster Club. If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you already know her work as the mind behind many of the awesome videos on the Buzz Bars YouTube channel. Besides the shared love of theme parks and roller coasters, we've also bonded over the creation of visual media, and she's been extremely helpful on several occasions with feedback and suggestions for a number of projects I've worked on, whether it was for one of my classes, this channel, or when I submitted an audition to join the social media team of FareDrop, the low-cost airfare search tool founded by the travel content creating couple Kara and Nate, who Alice and I are both fans of. While it's highly plausible that I wasn't anywhere close to being in the top 10 of the 700 plus candidates who submitted for it, I really appreciated her encouragement and feedback during the making of this video for that role, as it happened at a time when I needed a bit of a morale boost to help me rediscover my motivation. While many of our conversations are about video or creative ideas, every so often we get into talking about parks and coasters, and sometimes there will be some wild trip ideas that are discussed, some of which are actually turned into plans. So back in the summer of 2023, Allison found a really cheap flight out of Chicago with Aer Lingus that connected through Dublin to Brussels. She and Mullet devised a plan to fly out, visit Phantasialand and Plopsadepanne, then head home. Some would call such a short trip to Europe crazy, but she really wanted to return to Phantasialand since she had first experienced it during the lead up to Stubblelandia in 2022. And I certainly can't say anything about the craziness of that idea because, well, I kinda did the same thing with Philip back in 2018 for our visit to Oktoberfest. As the idea became an actual plan, an invitation was also extended to Erica, John Mike, and myself for what would be an awesome adventure, getting to experience the likes of Black Mamba, Terran, and Ride to Happiness. Plus, it'd be a special occasion as Mullet and John Mike had never left the North American continent before, so it was going to be a memorable experience for sure. Unfortunately though, I never made it. Navigating the fall of 2023 through the spring of 2024 at Bellevue College was a bit challenging thanks to limitations in my work schedule to accommodate my classes, and the off-season tour work can be pretty light at times, so I was already seeing a more limited income flow as it was. But then one cloudy October day, someone randomly threw a rock at my car as I was pulling out of a parking lot, and the combination of less pay and an unexpected large expense made it harder for me to justify keeping some of the trips I had planned the following months, so I had to back out of them. As the following year came, I managed to find a substitute driving job, which would help me create a better balance in my income flow and be far less heavily dependent on my summer tour income. Its flexibility allowed me to continue my classes, and I started to see how the last of them would play out. Fast forward to the end of the summer in 2024, I was preparing for my final year of Bellevue College's Digital Media Arts program by tapering down my travel ambitions so I could really focus on completing the last of their courses with less stress than the year before. That's not to say I didn't go anywhere at all. Before the start of the fall quarter, a bunch of Buzz Bars came over toward my neck of the woods for Labor Day weekend, and we had a chance to visit the likes of Silverwood, Wild Waves, the Washington State Fair, and Playland up in Vancouver. Plus, I might have given them a mini tour of Seattle. And since my off-season work for Tours Northwest is often comprised of charter work for local school districts, I'd have a nice few days around Thanksgiving off, which wouldn't have a whole lot going on. But it just so happened to be around the time that some folks had cooked up another crazy trip idea. While I missed out on getting to see John Mike and Mullet's first international experience, I did enjoy seeing what a great time they all had. It inspired Allison and Mullet to come up with a bit of a crazy sequel the following year. The idea for this trip was to fly into Zurich, Switzerland, do a bit of exploring, then spend 2 days at another popular German roller coaster destination, Europa Park. Not only was the destination different, but the group dynamic changed as it went from 4 the previous year to about 15 who would travel across the pond this time, myself included. Our crew of 9 would be gathering in Zurich to hop aboard a van and drive down to Lucern for a lunch stop. Then we'd join the other crew up at Europa. We'd then have 2 days at the park before everyone would scatter to various airports for the return home, with the van returning to Zurich. Since I offered to drive the van for 8 other people coming to Zurich, I decided to use my United miles to better ensure I'd arrive with everyone else, and then use my Delta access for the return home so I could save some cash. I had the miles to cover a business class flight connecting through Chicago, but decided against it when there was a special reason to stick with economy and connecting through Washington Dulles instead, which might have been a difference maker as this trip went on, but we'll get to that later. This would be far from the longest international trip I've ever been on, but it was looking like a wonderful break from a very busy fall quarter and a chance to spend time with friends I hadn't seen in a few months, while also experiencing a park that's been on my European bucket list for a very long time. It's definitely colder than I was expecting it to be, and I'm kind of hoping this fog isn't ominous to something that could go wrong later. The early departure would call for taking the C line in the opposite direction so I could catch the 560 from Sound Transit, which is what I've done a few times when it's too early for the light rail, but the amount of fog was pretty wild to see. I don't know if I've ever seen it this foggy out here at the airport before, but hopefully it's not leading too many delays because got a little tight window in DC. While the low visibility was a bit concerning, I was happy to experience one of my quickest security passages yet, which was likely due to it being Thanksgiving Day, as opposed to the usual pre-holiday chaos that happens across the country. As the sun was coming up, you could really see just how extensive the fog was, but it fortunately didn't really affect our flight as we boarded and departed on time. I will admit that United isn't often my first choice because their domestic economy is a vastly different experience than their wonderful Polaris business class, which I enjoyed the year before on my way home from visiting Italy and Tunisia. It also didn't help that this flight was 100% full, so there weren't many options for spreading out. But getting to use points to save some cash was certainly a decent trade-off, and eliminating the potential of not making a flight due to flight loads was also very helpful. But even a very full plane can't stop the enjoyment of the sight of Mount Rainier from the sky, especially as it was sitting above the heavy fog. Crossing over the snow-covered Cascade Mountains was also a treat, and a bit symbolic as the North Cascades are nicknamed the North American Alps because of the way they resemble the European mountain chain, and those of us flying into Zurich would be in close proximity of that very range. So I might have begun hoping that I'd get to see the inspiration for the nickname while on this trip. It was pretty cloudy the rest of the way, so most of the flight was spent enjoying a movie or two. And as we made our approach to Washington Dulles, it sure was windy, as we could really feel our 737 rocking on approach. One of the biggest concerns for any trip is making it to the gate for your connecting flight, and being closer to the back on a very full plane meant I would need to head right to the gate so I don't miss it. So imagine my luck when I found out that our arrival gate was directly across from the departure gate to Zurich. Along with having a very incredibly convenient distance between gates, I'm also not going on this next flight alone. Got some company coming. As it turned out, 7 of the 9 of us would be flying into Zurich on the very same flight over, as Jacob arrived first, then I landed, and one more flight out of Cincinnati brought Lucas, John Mike, Nate, Mullet, and Allison over.
Just gonna keep it going all the way to boarding time. Please no. No, you have no choice. It's happening.
It's over. Please leave.
Good to see you, sir.
Finally, you're getting
Oh,
to do this
man.
Netflix.
Oh, I
Yes.
know, right?
With everyone here, we were ready to take over a small section of the 767 heading to the other side of the Atlantic. Hope you all are ready, because it's going to be a first ever Plane Love Pat train. As we booked the flight, we ended up sitting behind one another in multiple rows. Needless to say, there might have been some light shenanigans on the flight before we even pushed back. This was the latest part of the year I've ever flown over to Europe, so it felt a bit unusual to be taking off in the dark, then spending what felt like 95% of the flight in it. After a couple hours, it was time to try for some shut-eye, and some folks had absolutely no problem dozing off. I admittedly got maybe an hour's snooze at best, so I wasn't too thrilled about that, but our timing made it so that we could enjoy a sunrise viewing of those majestic European mountains I'd been hoping to see. It ended up being pretty cloudy as we descended into Zurich, so we wouldn't see the Alps again while exploring Switzerland. But the fact that we were even here was exciting enough, especially as several in the group were making their first visit to the nation.
Remember that one time when three of us were talking in the car about going to Europa Park, going to Switzerland, and now we're in Switzerland?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
We're still in a plane.
I know, but we made it to Switzerland.
It turns out that our +1 is right across the aisle from us, so we're gonna greet him.
Bram flew in on that Chicago flight I had considered before, which got in just a bit after us, so we could serve as his welcoming committee.
He's oblivious.
So
He made it!
Hello.
As Dakota would be arriving a bit later, the 8 of us who had already arrived hopped on a train for the city center so we could go exploring. We'd stash our bags in a locker at Zurich's main station, then go for a stroll through town much like Philip and I had just 6 years earlier. We crossed over the other side of the Lamont River and enjoyed the views along the way to a shop tucked in one of the side streets of the old town, the Chocolate and Espresso Bar of H. Schwarzenbach, a family-run grocer that's specialized in coffees and chocolate since 1864. And their espresso bar offers some of your typical coffee beverages, but you can't take it a step further with one of their hot chocolates mixed with coffee. I'm not much of a coffee drinker myself, but I'd gladly try a hot chocolate.
I decided to go ahead and try their caramel hot chocolate, and it's rich and delicious and perfect because it's cold out here.
That's behind the scenes.
After a nice warm drink, we continued to follow the Lamont until we got to the edge of Lake Zurich. Eventually, we began heading back to the train station so we could pick up the rental van that would come to be known as the Gary Bus.
So I went ahead and got a 9-passenger van because there's going to be 9 of us. What I don't think many people were ready for, though, was there's going to be 3 in the back, 3 in the middle, and 3 very snug boys up front here.
Yep.
So
Yep.
this is going to be an adventure.
It is.
Yes.
After swinging back by the airport to pick up Dakota, we made our way to the city of Lucerne. Something that really stood out to me was the frequency and length of the tunnels we passed through between the two cities, as it felt like we spent somewhere between a quarter to half of the drive underground. But there were some lovely Swiss countryside views as well. As we arrived to Lucerne, we found a garage to park the van, then took a stroll through town, which offers some incredible architecture. If there's one thing Switzerland knows, it's cheese. And one of the primary reasons for visiting Lucerne was to enjoy a meal at Fondue House du Pont. Old casinos may reek of cigarette smoke that won't go away, but this cozy restaurant has a far more pleasant fragrance of melted cheese that lingers inside, building up anticipation for the dairy delight that's about to come. Being back in this part of Europe, my German heritage will always win out when choosing what to drink, as I had a Luzerner Weissbier, a delightful Hefeweizen brewed from the local Rathaus Lucerne. But the best part comes when those pots of melted cheese arrive. There are a few mixtures of cheese and spices to choose from, and we all agreed upon the Gruyere and Michael Tell Alp organic cheese with garlic. They offer you bread to dip, but you can add additional foods to use such as potatoes, chicken, beef, and seasonal vegetables.
Wow.
Come on, chicken. Oh no. There we go.
Dude, that's so good.
From the look of things, I don't think anyone in our group was disappointed, although Nate might have made some poor life choices when deciding to eat the pepper that came in the fondue.
There's Nate dying.
Learn this though. I ain't no bitch.
So it wasn't that long ago that I was talking about how great the culinary experiences in Italy were. That fondue here at the fondue house, oh man, that was definitely one of the best meals. It was delicious.
Having consumed so many calories, it seemed like a great time for a walk, and we happened to be in a very scenic part of town along the Reuss River, Switzerland's fourth largest river with water that flows from the Alps to the north. It was the primary reason that Lucerne was created as a fishing village. While they have many buildings along its banks, the most distinctive feature is the Kapellbrücke, or Chapel Bridge, a 14th century medieval wooden bridge that was built at an angle for a direct connection between fortifications on either side. This is Europe's oldest wood-covered bridge and the world's oldest truss bridge. The water tower in the middle predated the main bridge by about 30 years, and it served as a dungeon, a torture chamber, and a municipal archive. Today you can find a souvenir shop that occupies a portion of it. One of the bridge's most distinctive features is the collection of 17th century paintings that hang from the roof which depict historic moments of the area, although a number of them were destroyed by a fire in 1993. Fortunately, there were at least 30 that were able to be saved and restored. As much as I'd love to spend more time walking around the city and seeing what else it had to offer, we had a few hours on the road to go and plans to enjoy the evening at an attraction of our main destination. While I was really bummed to have missed out on that quick European trip before, I was grateful that things worked out to join this one, and I really enjoyed the experience of being surrounded by friends on the same transatlantic flight, then enjoying a familiar stroll with a sweet treat in Zurich, and one of my favorite meals with a side of history in Lucerne. But that's only the beginning, as next time things get a bit wet and wild while enjoying a great indoor water park and a couple of days of coaster riding at one of Europe's premier theme parks. Thank you for watching this video from Coasting with Culture. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and click on the subscribe button to see future videos here on YouTube, like these ones which you may enjoy as well. Additional content can be found at coastingwithculture.com, and you can also follow Coasting with Culture on various social media channels at CoastWCulture for announcements, previews, and updates. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care and safe travels.